icons. He'd got the strength and the proof that he'd become that kind of icon. And I suppose then he wanted to see if he could look like one. And I think that there's a certain poignancy about his failure, but I think it's kind of interesting that he's wanted to have a go at that.
I wasn't very happy with it at the beginning because I really felt that with the Smiths albums he'd kind of started a precedent, and that possibly he could profit from that and move on from that. Not sure how he would possibly do that, but maybe to choose other imagery or still life or some other scene that would not have a similarity to it, but would still keep a bit of his personality. I felt that, obviously having working with him and having done that album with him, that those images were really important, not only to the Smiths, but to him. And in a way, I think he felt he couldn't use those retrospective images again because it was too related to the Smiths. Which I sure was a kind of an artistic problem for him, because that's what he's about, and that was more him possibly than the Smiths, really. It must have been very, very difficult for him to throw that away, because they'd worked so hard, and it's very hard to get a type style and a logo style within 3 years, and to then decide, well, I can't continue this because I'm not Smiths, I'm now Morrissey, you know. It must be so difficult for him to have done that, you know. So I think he toyed with himself on the front, and then maybe another found image, and now, his new album, the latest album, he's back on the front, you know. But he's actually got some props and he's doing something this time, you know, which he didn't do before, you know.
Released in August 1995, Southpaw Grammar's raw, unpolished sound failed to capture public and critical attention. With 2 singles failing to break the British top 20, it was commercially a disappointment, yet over time it has gained support.
Southpaw Grammar is the most underrated album Morrissey has ever made, and boy, some of them have been quite lowly rated. I understand what people don't like about it, but I myself, and it may be just a purely personal foible, think that it has something. It's quite dark. It's the darkest record he's ever made, and it's sonically the most adventurous record.
It was a good album. I've recently been quoted in Mojo saying that I thought it was an album too far. I'm not actually sure what that means. I preferred Vauxhall, but you know, I think there's some good stuff on Southpaw.
I mean, Southpaw Grammar was, to me, a very poor album. The songs would have been better had he taken more time with the editing and shortened some of them. I mean, there were 2 enormous sagas, one beginning, one ending it, and The Teachers Are Afraid of the Pupils, which begins so brilliantly. He lifts the whole of the first movement of Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony, but then it just goes on and on and on, and, you know, I mean, most people, they just press the button on the machine to move on to the next one.
I think maybe it's not as accessible as Vauxhall. Maybe because of the long songs. Some people don't like songs to be more than 3 minutes because they don't have the attention span, you know. So it's probably more of a challenging listen, which I think is a good thing.
It's 11 minutes, this song of The Teachers Are Afraid of the Pupils, which is about violence in modern Britain. I just thought kicking off a new album with an 11-minute track smacked of confidence. It had a certain, about it. It said to his detractors and people, I don't have to start with some flimsy pop song. I can start with this quite dark, odd record that lasts 11 minutes. It closes with Southpaw, which is about 13 minutes as well, and has got in the middle an absolutely mad kind of motorbike revving up riff that changes the whole song halfway through. And those 2 epics, quite dark epics, that wouldn't be out of place on Physical Graffiti, bookend a odd collection of songs. Reader Me Author is about people slumming it seems to me. I don't know whether it's about Martin Amis, the British novelist, but I think generally it's about the idea of people slumming it, which is a British phenomenon whereby people hang out with people of a lower class than themselves to acquire some kind of glamour. But it's a funny record. It's a mysterious record. You can't quite work out. It doesn't fit nicely in any of the themes or the career progression of his other career. But I like Southpaw Grammar. I think it's sardonic. I think it's a bit bleak. I think the sounds on it are very different from the usual Morrissey sounds. And it's overdue a revival, probably in about 2011.
In November, Morrissey went on the road again. Yet for the first time since the early 80s, he was performing as a support act. The top billing was Morrissey's childhood hero, David Bowie.
We opened at Wembley Arena. It was 4 nights. And I'm not sure that the fans sort of mixed, really. You know, obviously the Bowie people would come in. I think a lot of them probably didn't want to see Morrissey. So we'd play and, you know, all the fans would be down the front, and then I think it would change and Bowie fans would come in. So it was almost like two separate gigs under one roof, you know.
The tour was not a success, and although Morrissey was playing to impressive crowds, he soon reconsidered the venture.
We pulled out in Aberdeen, and I think Morrissey was feeling very well, and basically just decided to take a rest. So, yeah, we didn't continue. I think the initial plan was to go to Europe after Christmas, but we never did any of those dates.
The following year, Morrissey made the headlines again for all the wrong reasons. After failed attempts to initiate work on a new album, Morrissey ended a quiet 12 months defending his past actions in the High Court. Smith's drummer Mike Joyce's case against Morrissey and Johnny Marr had taken 10 years to reach this point, and finally his claim of unpaid royalties was being heard by a judge. The ruling went against Morrissey and Marr, and once again the singer found himself with a black mark upon his career. Yet his reaction to the ruling has been equally detrimental.
I think the much vaunted court case, the royalties case in which Morrissey was found to be owing Mike Joyce, I think £1 million. I think it's had a detrimental effect on Morrissey's music and perhaps Morrissey himself, and I kind of wish that it could be sorted out, because A, if you love the Smiths, and if you don't love the Smiths, well, I despair of you. If you love the Smiths, you don't want to feel that this shadow of rancour and allegedly unpaid monies is clouding the legacy of one of the greatest pop groups Britain has ever produced, or the world has ever produced. You know, that's a given, you know. And I would rather know that they don't have to, you know, I don't care if they don't go out for dinner together. I'd just rather know that all scores were settled properly and in the best of ways. I also think that Morrissey's got a little bit obsessed with it now. He feels very, very badly treated. Morrissey sees himself as an outsider, and being hauled up in court in front of the police and guys in wigs, I understand that. I understand that he feels the authorities are out to get him because they don't understand him. I understand that. But I think now he has to move on, because there's a terrible song on Maladjusted that talks about lawyers and liars and all this. There's too many mentions of it on You Are the Quarry, his new album, which I think slightly dogs it. I want to hear Morrissey singing about whatever, his love life, or, you know, people he meets in the street or whatever. I'm rather sick about him just going on about judges. There is a song I've never heard called something like Your Sorrow Will Come in the End, or Sorrow Will Come to You in the End, apparently that you have to leave off Maladjusted because he's so hurtful, allegedly, and contentious about Mike Joyce and the court case. I just think now, I'm not saying, you know, we want to see them shaking hands on stage anytime. I don't think that's going to happen soon. I think a Smiths revival is not going to happen any day soon. Morrissey, Marr, maybe, but not a Smiths revival. There's too much bad blood. But I do just think perhaps if Morrissey could put it down to life's rich tapestry and move on, then I think, because I think he's in danger of people who don't like him having another thing to get at him with. That's Morrissey. Morrissey needs court case. Shut up already about the court case. Move on. And I do think it gives people who don't understand what a talent he is another you know, stick to beat him with. And I just think, move on. Be happy. Let it go.
In 1997, Morrissey attempted to hit back with his 6th studio album, Maladjusted. It was his most critically derided work so far, and it appeared that the poet laureate of British pop was in danger of becoming irrelevant.